But it becomes very, very difficult when you're talking about trauma and you're talking about wounding and you're talking about being a person who's toxic and feeding off of that negative, toxic energy. And that's all you know. And then you resort back to that always. One day, those types of beliefs or those types of patterning can result in the unspeakable. Thank you for joining me today. My name is Bianca, and I am here to do a natal chart reading for Jodi Arias. If you are new to the channel, thank you for clicking through and checking me out. I hope that you, engage in the comment section and all that. If you like what you hear today, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. That would really help me out with the YouTube powers that be. But for the most part, if you're interested in this type of content, astrology, and a little bit of true crime, stay tuned and keep watching. So the case of Jodi Arias captivated, the world, but specifically in the United States, it captivated a lot of people because she unalived her ex-boyfriend. They had, his name is Taurus Alexander, and they had a very tumultuous, weird relationship. Sorry if you can hear my dog shaking his body. Jodi had a relationship with Taurus Alexander. It was just ups and downs. Fast forward to June 4th, 2008, he was found dead in his apartment. I'm trying to keep the channel without bloody, gory details, but it's really hard. But main point, he was found unalive. So if you want more details, you can always go find out that. The idea is that it seemed like a really intensely passionate crime scene in which someone really had strong emotions in the way that they did the crime. Of course, she denied her involvement. So because of photographic evidence, it was proven that, or at least put her at the scene of the crime at the time that he had passed away. She went through a trial. I can't believe it took 5 years for her to for the case to get to trial, which I think is really weird. I don't know. I thought that was really weird. I don't know what was that about. He was a Mormon and he was a religious guy, and he was successful. He made some money, and she was this pretty girl, pretty woman, and it's two good-looking people. They had this horrid, sexual relationship that was against the church's rules. The thing that everyone was obsessed with was the fact that she had, and this kind of sucks, there was a lot of explicit sexual images that were shown in the course of the case of Jodi Arias. And so that was something that brought a lot of people to the yard, I guess, so to speak. And so yeah, people just really were obsessed with the story. So she was found guilty of first-degree murder. So let's get into the chart. And by the way, remember that these readings are for educational and entertainment purposes only. So Jodi Arias was born July 9th, 1980 at 1:52 a.m. in Salinas, California. That makes her a Cancer sun. That also makes her a Gemini moon and a Taurus rising. The sun, how you express yourself in this physical reality, it's your soul's expression. Cancerian archetype is a very intuitive, maternal, emotional, sensitive, loving, nurturing energy ruled by the moon. They say that, Cancers are moody, but the thing is that they're planetary ruler is the moon, and the moon changes phases every 2.5 days, give or take. And they're very intuitive, so they're more responsive and receptive to the ebbs and flows of the energies around them. So anything around the sun, I tend to focus on. So in this case, Mercury is conjunct her sun. Vesta is there too, but we're not going to get into Vesta in this reading. Mercury is the planet that's associated with communication, associated to intellect, the mental processes. It could represent things also like siblings and youth, but for the most part, it's communication, and it's in the third house of early childhood. So, her early upbringing was really formative to her, and it's going to be really important to her because Mercury is close to her sun. And so being a Cancer, this person has the ability to make people feel very comfortable. And so that's really a huge thing that I've noticed with her and with Lori Vallow. So with Lori Vallow, when she got interrogated, the cops were easy on her and they were laughing, and she made people feel very comfortable. So there was a lightness about her and a comfort in her personality and the way she spoke that made people kind of lower their guard. Same here, but it's not necessarily in the interrogation period, because I saw some of the interrogation videos for Jodi Arias and I realized that she they kind of knew what was up because everyone had told them this is who did the crime. So they already knew who they were working with. But in interviews, if you look at her talk, you get conflicted. You have all the facts in front of you, but you kind of get a little conflicted about, did she do it? Is she completely, like, you just question a lot. And again, she's absolutely guilty. I mean, at least that's how the court has sentenced her, and there's a lot of evidence. Yeah, it's like that nonverbal, you know, the energy that she exudes makes you question, like, a person this maternal or this comforting or soothing even can't possibly do this, right? This heinous crime. And so Mercury in Cancer speaks to a person's ability to communicate also in this nonverbal plane, in this intuitive level. Can be someone who talks about their emotions or really lives their emotions through their words as well. Can be someone who is able to pick up on people's emotions and how they're feeling without them actually speaking. And this is a huge thing about her identity. I think she might be, I mean, I looked up her intellect also. I looked up her IQ, and she's above average IQ of 136. There was another source that said she had 116, but most of the sources I saw was 136. And which means that she's really intuitive. Like, there's an element of a high EQ, being able to read the room and know what's going on with people. And someone who can use that for their good, that's really great. But if someone is somehow manipulative or has power struggle issues, that can be a problem. And we see that right there already with the squaring to Pluto. There's a difficulty, tension point with how she uses her communication style for possible power and control dynamics. So we'll talk about Pluto a little bit more, especially in relationships. So, okay, because we have Pluto in Libra, but we'll get back to that. So the ruler of Cancer, which is the moon, is in the second house of self-esteem, resources, money. And so for her, money is going to be really important. Security is going to be really important. The Cancerian archetype is this, also wants the stability, but like this safety, like this nesting energy, and wants stability in that way through the home and emotional stability. And so you have that emotional stability in the second house. So resources and the things that she has are going to be really important to her. And that moon is also conjunct her Venus. And Venus is going to bring out this energy of needing in relationships. She's going to need a lot of tending to and security, emotional support and affirmations to feel safe and secure in her relationships. And this gets played out even more. This gets amplified because her chart ruler is Venus. And I say that because the ascendant is in Taurus. Ascendant in Taurus, Venus in the second house. Again, it doubles down on this needing security thing. So she needs emotional security, she needs financial security. And so with her, you know, and Taurus wants stability, simplicity, you know, all that. Also, Taurus likes to take part in the sensual pleasures of life. It wants, again, things that are just more in the more material realm. This depth, this intensity is not necessarily how she goes about doing things. That is where her relationships end up being. She ends up attracting really intense people with her descendant in Scorpio, but we'll get to that. But pretty much how she goes about life, you know, her goals are to, again, have security, emotional stability, emotional security in the home front, as well as in her within her emotions. She wants to feel safe in a relationship with someone. And she goes about doing that in a very simplistic, attractive, Venusian way, bringing people close to her through beauty and through things that are more visual, right? Things that are easily seen. Chiron is also conjunct her ascendant in Taurus. And so wherever Chiron is, there's a potential for wounding. There's always a potential for this feeling of insecurity and this issue of not ever feeling 100% whole in this one area. And it's okay because Chiron is the wounded healer, right? So even though you have this wounding, the idea is that you take the wounding and you go help others with that. And that wounding can help you transmute some of that pain. wounding around security, not having enough money, maybe. And since it's an ascendant, it's her body. So it can literally be her physical body, not being physically attractive enough, not being lovable enough, because we're talking about Venus, not being, not feeling like she will ever have the amount of safety and security that she needs. So the ruler of the ascendant and the ruler of the sun are conjunct in the house of resources. Again, emphasizing concerns with security and safety in the monetary space and in the emotional, plane. Her emotional stability is very tied to relating to people, and it's out there. Another thing about Chiron on the ascendant, it could literally mean that this person was physically hurt by someone in early age. So it's either, Chiron at 17 degrees either means that there was a wounding that was created around like high school age, or there was a wounding because it's so close to the ascendant. It could be wounding at the time of birth, or really early childhood wounding that challenged her and created a scar or trauma that made her question her self-worth, her value, her sense of security. Maybe she didn't have a lot of money like the other kids did. Maybe she was very aware of her financial status or socioeconomic status. I mean, she grew up in Salinas. Maybe she was the poor kid, maybe she was aware of the fact that, she might have been different. Maybe she just might have been different compared to the rest of the kids. And so that really bothered her. And unfortunately, Chiron on the ascendant also can straight up just mean issues with self-confidence and issues with self-esteem. So it's really, really hard placement to have. And that can manifest in obviously different ways. The ascendant Chiron conjunction opposes Uranus as well. And for a person who really wants stability, it's going to be difficult because Uranus is in the 7th house of relationships. And Uranus, the planet of is the planet of disruption and shocking, changes. And so someone who's already tender about the topic of, I just want security. I mean, she gives the vibe of a woman who actually wants to be a stay-at-home mom, maybe has a little garden, keeps it simple, has this really deep, intense relationship with her husband, but is, kind of a domestic soul. And you can see that in how her behavior was, because she totally was like, yeah, I'm going to get married to this guy. She met Travis Alexander. He was Mormon. She just got baptized into the church, like no questions asked. Like it was on, she wanted that. That's what she wanted. She found someone who was financially stable and that was worth, pursuing, and she wanted that. And so you can see that kind of being someone shining at home in a domestic space, wanting that security and being at home. So you can just think about that type of archetype, that type of person that wants that. But then it also just like there's an element of insecurity with that as well. So you throw in insecurity and self-esteem issues, and so there's this desperation that comes through when you have that, to achieve that type of stability, that type of relationship, that type of connection. And all of that is opposed by Uranus. Uranus is not going to let her be great. Like it's not, Uranus, again, is the planet of shocks, surprises. It is the planet of the great. This is the great liberator. But in this case, it's not going to be a positive interpretation. It's going to be a disruptive energy. And we know that this is the Chiron opposition to Uranus is also going to be a bigger story, because it's making a fixed grand cross with the nodes. And the nodes, we talked about this before, but the nodes speak to her karmic narrative and her evolutionary journey through lifetime to lifetime, or her ability to seek purpose in this lifetime. If you can't jive with lifetimes after lifetimes, you can just say, okay, her ability to find her purpose in this lifetime can be a little difficult. There can be stuck energy associated to her. So Chiron and Uranus operate as obstacles to her achieving her North Node goals of, I think being the queen of the castle. Like, that's what I get. Leo in the North Node, Leo North Node in the fourth house, that's really being a stay-at-home mom. And there's issues with that because relationships are unstable. She's massively insecure. You're going to have people run away from her, right? That probably the instability comes from some of the insecurity that's there. And she's going to, but it's crazy because like her current purpose is to achieve stability in a domestic and private space. And so it's really hard because when you got those fixed grand crosses, it's hard to break out of that. There's very little wiggle room, and it's really hard. You have to be very aware of what's going on and how you project into the world in order for you to fix this. I mean, you are drawn naturally to your old patterns of rebellion, and in this case it would be rebellion and detachment and being a little weird and doing weird things, and like that sometimes is gonna that stuck energy is gonna keep her from being able to progress and achieve her goals. But she really, I mean, a person with this chart, and especially she has a yod, like it really represents that there are some experiences and talents and tendencies that she carries from her past life, or since from early childhood, or early on in her current life. And there's a lot of safety in that space. And so there needs to be an opportunity to release some things that are not serving her anymore. And so that's really hard, again, to do when you got that stuck energy of the fixed grand cross. So let's go back to Venus. Let me just quickly highlight, the South Node in Aquarius. This can make someone fairly distant, fairly aloof, very detached, rebellious in their own right. And specifically, since the ruler of the South Node is in the 7th house, some of her instability and the instability in the relationships are from her identifying too much with her South Node. Again, a lot of the issues that people have, I'm finding in their charts, is due to, or people who commit crimes, they're too identified with their South Node. They're just too identified with it. They can't get out of it. And that's why those grand fixed crosses are really, really hard energies to work with and work through. I mean, she comes in this life with a comfort zone of being the eccentric one, the weird one, the just like a little bit different, and, being rebellious and being also kind of like just not following social norms. and it affects her relationships, and it makes things unstable, and they probably go running away from her. And it does not help her Chiron. And she acts out, I think, because she's insecure also. So this is, again, all this energy is locking her up and keeping her from being able to just be great and be like the domestic goddess that she, her North Node in the 4th house would indicate. So Venus opposing Neptune. So Venus is, again, symbolizes love, union, relationships. What do you attract in the world? Beauty, aesthetics. And again, it's tied to her emotions. So all of that is going to have that energy of love and bringing people together is going to be highly connected to her emotional state. In relationships, if there are breakups like that, she's the person that won't leave the house for 2 weeks. And everyone's been there, everyone's been down bad in a relationship, but that is a marker of that literally would hit them really, really hard. And so across from that energy of this really intense, all my soul love type of energy is opposing her Neptune and Sagittarius. And Neptune and Sagittarius has this energy of going deep, going far and being willing to go to the depths for a belief system and spiritual, like in an attempt to merge with someone. Specifically in this case, she's willing to do anything to merge and connect with someone. And Neptune is spirituality and oneness. It's a watery energy. It can dissolve boundaries and dissolve things. It can also put up rose-colored glasses on a situation. So yeah, Neptune has issues with boundaries, right? And then you have this person who is very, I would say sick in love. Not sick in love, but I mean, very strong feelings towards love. The type of person that if they're not in a relationship, they're probably not feeling good. But does not do well with being single. And so she has these pictures of, Neptune can create images and dreams of what a relationship should be. And, again, this totally plays in with this like narrative of her having this idea and wanting this ideal home life and wanting that so deeply, and having delusions when it comes to what it means to be in a relationship, what it means to sustain a relationship, what it means to have a relationship that has a firm foundation. That's going to be a little unclear. So Neptune can like project as well. So I could see her also like projecting what onto a person, and whatever she thinks that they want, she will just kind of give it to them. So I see that as well as something that will happen. But we all know that that's not sustainable. And they find out who she is, and it's probably like, ugh, okay, yeah, I can't do this anymore. Being with love is going to be really important here. And at least with her, her personality analysis. Saturn is also squaring in the 5th so Saturn in the house of relationships and sex and romance is squaring her Neptune in the 8th. Saturn puts up boundaries and sets up, standards of tradition and what's acceptable in society, and, just puts up the guardrails, and Neptune just kind of melts all of that. So you can have someone who has a tendency to, again, act outside of the norms of what society expects, right? So if you break up with your boyfriend, you probably shouldn't slash his tires, right? You should probably chill and kind of nurse your wounds, but no one's doing violent stuff. Like, we're not doing that over here. And so, yeah, that square between Saturn and the 5th and Neptune in the 8th is huge.
So the rulers of her south node are Uranus and Saturn, the co-rulers, and they're both in her relationship houses. Pretty much one romantic relationships that are more casual, like dating relationships, and then there's also more committed one-on-one relationships. And so you have, again, a lot of karmic unresolved issues revolving around relationships. So these co-rulers being in a relationship house, one of them being Saturn, which has a very karmic, you get out what you put in type of energy, the planet of hard, just hard lessons. And so you have hard lessons in the 5th house. It's conjunct Mars. Mars represents men, and it's also co-rules Scorpio. So there's a lot of bouncing back and forth. Like there's a constant, there's clear energetic patterning that just screams this storyline of, okay, you have karmic unresolved issues around men and relationships. Saturn is also making a T-square to Neptune and Venus. And Neptune, we already talked about. Neptune and Venus have tension. There's issues with pretty much integrating the two energies, right? The energies are not necessarily on the same page when it comes to the things that she's dreaming and the way she wants to connect with people, and the way that she wants to love and have security, they're just not on the same page. And so and that's being squared by Saturn. And the Saturn point is the area in which she could potentially release some of those karmic bonds and, learn through that and have personal development through the area of romance and relationships. But again, with Saturn, you have to be willing to listen to the lessons. And so how it looks like sometimes for people is that things are just difficult. Again, Saturn in the 5th house, or Saturn anywhere in a specific house, yes, it has karma related to it, but that karma also feels like to a person that they are behind, or that there's a lot of delay around that certain area of their life. So I could see her, this is in 2008. She's 28 years old. She's coming up, I believe, on her Saturn return, if not having started it. And I could see someone like that really struggling and wanting to just settle down and be like, this is my time. Like, come on. Like, everyone else is getting married. I should be married by now. Saturn does that a lot, is make you sometimes look around and be like, I am late to this party. Whatever this party is, I'm late.
Mercury in conjunct Neptune, there's, again, disassociation, disconnection between the logical world and the dream world. So, between her wanting to achieve a stability and safety and merging with a person intimately, the way she goes about that is not going to be, it's not going to be in sync. And so needing for adjustment and needing to really be aware would be important about, like, okay, I have a tendency to maybe over romanticize things, and so therefore I need to maybe go see a therapist, maybe have more realistic expectations, however she wants to do that. But awareness of the fact that she has these thoughts and she has also the dreams, and they don't necessarily connect is a really would be something she would have to do. And so this lack of sense of reality is evident also with her South Node sextiling her Neptune. And so it could really amp up and overdoing it when it comes to romanticizing relationships. So karmically speaking, the ruler of the South Node in the 7th house, which is Uranus, speaks to a lot of challenges for her. And related to instability in her relationships, and it really, again, activates, stimulates, and just really agitates the wound from her Chiron across in Taurus. South Node trine to Pluto, again, overdoing power dynamics, overdoing the sex, the intensity in order to keep someone, overdoing power plays and things like that. Another element of Pluto trining South Node is, again, just a natural draw and pull to relationships that have serious power imbalances. So Sun squaring Pluto, so we'll talk about Pluto more. Pluto is in Libra and applies an unsettling energy on the Sun, and that can cause conflict in relationships, specifically associated with controlling behavior. Pluto, again, is associated with power, control, and taboo behavior, dark-sided behavior. So if you're looking for what is, going on in someone's relationships, or going, something, if there's a murder or a crime, you're going to look for Pluto, and you're going to look for where Mars is. And her Mars and Pluto are in the 6th house of servitude, and her relationship, her descendant is Scorpio. So the two rulers of Scorpio are in the 6th house of servitude. So does that mean that she has a tendency to play up being the lesser in order to have something? There's this idea that sometimes people can when you do those, there's this, in the BDSM community, there's this idea that the subordinate actually you'll have like a subordinate and a dom, right? Don't ask me why. Again, 8th house, I just am obsessed with learning random weird stuff. So please don't judge. But you have the dominant and you have the sub. And the idea is that the subordinate has all of the power, even though externally speaking, the dominant looks like they're having all the power and the control. Because, sometimes they'll do play of like, oh, the subordinate has to ask for permission to do simple things. Or they have to be at the, beck and call of the dominant. But this seems like the energy of that, where she plays the subordinate, but she will do things because, in a way, knowing that she actually has a fair amount of power. And it's about power play. So that's kind of interesting right there. I also, question that there might be a back and forth. Again, there's always this back and forth energy that I'm getting from this chart where it's like toxic. You give toxicity, I get toxicity. We're all in a toxic space together and we're loving it. So it seems like that in a relationship. So let's quickly take a look at her, the day that she committed the crime. It was on June 4th, 2008. I just can't believe how long it took for them to have her trial. This is the day that she unalived her boyfriend. It is such a karmic nodal story. She is going through a nodal reversal. And a nodal reversal can be a time of reactivating wounds of self-worth in relationships. You revisit the past to assess and even maybe determine if what you kind of revisit the old stomping grounds to realize and show that, hey, these pants don't fit anymore. The South Node life does not serve me anymore. The transiting South Node with the North Node is exacerbating wounding in her chart. It's also exacerbating delusion because the energy of again, rose-colored glasses, delusions, not disassociation, honestly, and wounding. Because the North Node is a very inflaming energy. And it's functionally making her look back at the South Node. And I'm seeing that she's feeling a pull to it. The wounding of Chiron is making her kind of just go back to old habits. And the transiting South Node, which is supposed to be an area of release, it's conjunct Mars, which is the planet of aggression and violence. And it's also the ruler, Mars is the ruler of the descendant. So again, to summarize all of this, she's in a situation where she is being called back to her South Node. She has stuck energy with this fixed Grand Cross. She's being triggered. Her wounding of security and sense of self-worth is being triggered right now. She is in a relationship which is toxic, let's just say toxic. And she is in a situation where she pretty much makes the unspeakable choice. And it's interesting because the Mars is conjunct the South Node, similar to the chart that we did last time with Chris Watts, where literally he chose violence. So when he chose the South Node, he chose violence. Sometimes it's hard to see if people could have broken out, chose a different way. I always do believe we have free will, but it becomes very, very difficult when you're talking about trauma and you're talking about wounding and you're talking about being a person who's toxic and feeding off of that negative, toxic energy. And that's all you know. And then you resort back to that always. One day, those types of beliefs or those types of patterning can result in the unspeakable. So That's all I got for you today. Like, comment, subscribe. If you want to book a reading with me, I would love to hear from you. Go to fourthhouselb.com, where I will hook you up and we can, connect. Again, ta-ta for now. Bye.